Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tailosive EV live on YouTube. I've had a pretty packed, pretty busy week, but I'm excited to talk about at least a little bit of development we seem to be getting with the 4680 Model Y, which I've seen the comments and we've been talking about it for so long. Many people are just like, how do you order a 4680 Model Y? How do I specify that I get one from Texas? How do you get these structural pack? How do you get these next generation batteries and all that? And Tesla's been incredibly quiet on this. I have to be honest. I am, uh, honestly, frankly, just shocked. I think overall is the best way to describe it. I'm mostly just shocked at the concept that Tesla built this factory, started building vehicles, started delivering those vehicles to employees, and still has not updated the configurator. And has gone very, very quiet on how the rollout of this Model Y is going to go. And it leaves us to the point where basically my channel can shine, which is highlighting tiny details and tiny differences to dive into. So, what is the update? What's the detail and difference we're diving into today? Basically, it's that in the Austin area, this is hyper specific. So it's the first time technically, very, very technically speaking, someone has been able to order a 4680 Model Y, but it requires fairly specific requirements. And I've been looking around Reddit and I've been looking around Twitter. I haven't found someone that's necessarily committed to doing this yet. But I hope someone does it soon because I want like a non-Tesla employee to take delivery of 4680 Model Ys. But anyway, basically, if you ordered a long-range Model Y and you're in the Austin area, so essentially you're within a reasonable distance to Giga Texas, as in probably less than 30-minute drive away, or I don't know how far away the Model Y reservation holders that were getting these notifications were, but basically they were sent out emails from Tesla, and I kind of predicted something like this would happen, although it's not the same way. One of the things I thought how Tesla may roll out the 4680 Model Y is kind of do it on an existing inventory basis. So instead of just updating the configurator and showing off, hey everyone, look, now you can order a Model Y. Because it's very difficult to prioritize, okay, what areas are we offering it? Elon said that they want Giga Texas to specialize in, central to east coast of the United States, and Model Ys from Fremont would just handle the west coast. So I thought, well, what would be a good way to restrict that? I guess it would be saying existing inventory in a certain area, but of course someone can easily just go to a different part of the country, update their area code, and just say, yeah, I'm technically right next to the factory. So maybe the way they avoid this is to start offering 4680 Model Ys to specific customers that they know for a fact ordered a long time ago, and they ordered in the Austin area. So that's like registered, and that they've uploaded documents to their account that prove, okay, they're a resident in the state of Texas, they have a Texas driver's license, and perhaps they can even verify like what your delivery location was going to be. So if you set from within the, I know people think that you can't take delivery of Teslas in Texas. You can. It's just the point of sale has to be done outside the state. So it doesn't seem to be stopping them from doing this. Basically, this is the email that Tesla was sending out to those reservation holders. It's called Accelerate Your Model Y Delivery. And I'll read it for you here. It's just a wall of text. But it says, you have the opportunity to experience our latest configuration and take delivery within weeks. So hopefully it's only a few more weeks until a real customer, not an employee, gets a 4680 Model Y and can actually start talking about it. But the email says, select Model Y all-wheel drive and experience one of the first vehicles built at Gigafactory, Texas, and currently only available in the area. Go anywhere with up to 279 miles on a single charge and accelerate from 0 to 60 in as little as 5 seconds. So the hard part about this email, as much as they make it sound nice, is that the specs are pretty much objectively worse than the long range. So all the people that are receiving this email have reserved a long range, and that has 330 miles of range and a 0 to 60 of 4.8 seconds. So Tesla is saying you can accelerate your delivery and get your car sooner if you take a lower range and a slower 0 to 60. But it's the latest from Tesla, and it's from our new factory in Texas. So then it says check your Tesla account regularly for updated inventory, or if you would like to keep your current configuration, we will contact you to schedule a delivery appointment. So of course you don't have to switch to a 4680 Model Y, but of course someone tapped the link within their Tesla account, because not everybody has this. My friend Nick lives in Starbase, Texas, and he has a performance Model Y. And I texted him as soon as this news dropped yesterday. I was like, "Hey, Nick, like check your account, see if you can get one," because he ordered a performance Model Y not for the performance. He simply just wants a car as fast as possible. He has to drive a lot for work. He works for NSF. He takes pictures of the Starbase rockets, and he thought, the fastest way to get a Model Y would be a performance because the estimated delivery is a lot shorter on that one. But I was like, this would be perfect for him because he could get it within weeks instead of months. And of course, it's cheaper than the performance. So yeah, the rumor about the 4680 Model Y being $60,000 is reasonable based on the screenshot that has been posted. So this is not from a source. This is not from some leaked document. This was just someone who clicked the accelerate delivery button within the Tesla order page. They were presented basically with three options. Accelerated delivery available, that's what's in the thumbnail of this live stream, and it confirms the pricing that we suspected. So they had two Model Ys that were blue. Both had 19-inch Gemini wheels. However, this is the interesting part. One of them has the tow hitch. The other one does not. So you'll have to take my word for it. I could blow it up on the screen here, but you can read it. Tow hitch was on the middle one, which adds $1,000, and of course the blue also adds $1,000. So for this particular user, I don't know what their exact original long-range Model Y order was, but I do know what it cost, because for $61,000 on the blue one without the tow hitch, it's listed as same price. And then for the one with the tow hitch, it's $1,000 more. And then there's a white one that doesn't have the tow hitch, but it has the 20-inch inductive wheels. So we've seen all of those Model Y specs outside of Giga Texas. And up until now, they've pretty much only been available for employees for delivery. They've never showed up on the website like this. This is the first time that's happened for a non-employee. So it essentially confirms a few things. Once again, that the price is accurate, 60 grand for the standard range, which is not a great bargain, and makes me once again very, very grateful that we compromised with the Model 3 rear-wheel drive, because we were not really interested in the Model Y long range when it had the 2170 cells. Back when it was $57,000, we were like, 330 miles of range for something that's over 60 grand. We want to wait and see. That's, we weren't in love with that spec as is, and the reason we didn't order it was because we thought maybe the 4680 Model Y would change some things. We were like, well, maybe when that comes online, we'll see some price adjustments or some range increases. And of course, my expectations were in the wrong place. I was thinking 4680s, like many of you and probably most of you, you were assuming that once these new batteries became available, once the 4680 came out, that would result in either a price drop or a range increase, if not both. So we thought, well, let's not buy yesterday's technology. And then, of course, as time went on, it started becoming more and more clear. Okay, for one, even if 4680 Model Ys become available, it's highly unlikely we'll be able to order it. And that assumption ended up being correct, because it's a very, very rare occurrence. Very few number of people are getting these options at checkout. And for two, based on current demand trends and the fact that the Model Y is super duper back ordered, even at extremely high price, it's fairly likely that the 4680 Model Y objectively just can't be that good a deal, because the back order would be insane, and Giga Texas is not at a high run rate right now. So what you're paying for is, yes, worse specifications, but a faster delivery time, which for some people that does matter more, especially right now with gas prices literally the highest they've ever been, and the fact that Tesla resale value is so high. The reason I don't think this is a bad idea at all is because even if it has worse range than the long range you ordered, and slower 0 to 60, this is a 4680 Model Y. It's built from Texas. It has a structural battery pack, and it's highly likely that the 4680s have a very good cycle life. It's also been talked about by Tesla employees at Cyber Rodeo that the charging curve would be improved, so it's possible you'll be able to get more range into the car faster than the long range will because of the new cells and their architecture. Um, so if you're in a hurry and you're just freaking sick of paying for gas cars, and this allows you to get your vehicle sooner, even if it costs $1,000 more, $2,000 more, absolutely select this option, take delivery of it, and if you don't like the see if you can live with 279 miles of range. If you can't and you decided, nope, that's still not enough for me, flip it, resell it. You'll probably get all of your money, if not more, back, and you can still buy a long range. So it's up to the end consumer, of course. Some people may not want to go through the process of reselling or reordering a long range Model Y again and that kind of thing. I get it. I don't expect everyone to take this option, but I don't think Tesla does either. The point was to ensure that demand would not be overwhelming for the 4680 Model Y because, of course, the production capacity is so low. And they also don't want to cause an Osborne effect where everybody's ordering the 4680 model, even if Giga Texas was somehow able to turn on and fully activate from day one. They just flip a switch and boom, okay, 500,000 Model Ys a year are being cranked out. Who's going to buy the Fremont model? If the Texas one is structural and has the new batteries and is longer range and is cheaper, everyone's going to want that one. So you don't want everybody canceling their Fremont orders. So Tesla has to be careful about how they introduce specifications, and they got to do it based on demand and what makes the most sense for their environment and the demand and the current market. So it makes sense in my brain. Like, from a consumer's perspective, yes, it's very disappointing as someone who was waiting for the 4680 Model Y for a long time. That was me. That's what we started with in the Tesla fund. We were like, we want to get a more affordable Model Y. We're hoping that maybe when Giga Texas comes online, maybe they'll do an LFP Model Y. So there's certainly advantages to going with it, but the price ended up just being way, way worse and way higher, and the range ended up, of course, being lower than we expected. So I do not believe there is an LFP Model Y being built out of Texas. Tesla employees themselves have posted about the 4680 Model Y, specifically saying, I worked on this battery, now I'm driving the car. They've posted it on their LinkedIn page. Elon has clarified that Giga Texas is building 4680 Model Ys. Elon also on a previous call said they're not doing any LFP 4680 batteries. So I know some people say, what if it's both? Can it be both? It's like, doesn't make much sense. Cylindrical cells do not maximize storage space, and LFP is less energy dense. You have a lot of unused space between LFP batteries. They like to be cooled differently than for cylindrical cells do. So it's just not logical for 4680 to be in the LFP format, at least right now. In the future, if they can get LFP energy dense enough, it might start to make sense, but right now it doesn't. And they've said that on the record and on the earnings call. They were like, LFP makes more sense in prismatic because there's less wasted space. There's not all these gaps in between the batteries. LFP is less energy dense, so you need more space within the vehicle for those batteries to go. Everything we've seen from people walking through Cyber Rodeo, looking at the manufacturing process, looking at the cell assembly, nothing has pointed to the idea of Giga Texas building 2170 Model Ys right now or LFP Model Ys. I don't think that's the scenario. Is there any possibility that they are limiting the range via software now to prevent Osborne effect? Just wondering. I've seen that theory floating around. I personally don't believe it. It doesn't really make much sense in my view because the main reason, what was it? Omar Homar's catalog on Twitter briefly tweeted out some documents that a Tesla employee had sent to him, and I retweeted it and quoted it. But then he quickly realized he wasn't supposed to tweet this information because it was sent to him in confidentiality from an employee. And but the quote tweet was already made. I'm not saying it was right for it to leak, but the information is out there regardless. He obviously took the tweets down, so he regretted it. But the quote tweet I found when he posted out basically this internal document that was being sent to Tesla employees. The Tesla employees were like, okay, you can order a 4680 Model Y if you're interested, and here's the info about it. Like, here's some of the differences, and it listed the parcel shelf, and it listed the magnetic center console lid. And the other thing it said is, like in the Q&A section about the Giga Texas Model Y. In the Q&A section, it was like, why is the range and weight not much different? Why is the range lower and the weight the same? And the answer that Tesla had written out, or wrote, whatever the term is, was that they have chosen to go with a lower energy pack on this model to prioritize production, scaling, and affordability. So while $60,000 isn't necessarily affordable, I think it's much more likely that Tesla has started building 4680s that do not have a super high energy density. They're still cylindrical cells. They're still nickel based. It's still a nickel based cathode. It's not LFP, but there's probably less nickel in the cathode, so they're not as energy dense as they theoretically could be. Like at Battery Day, when they talked about the 4680, they were like, hey, this will allow for 15% range increase and it's 6 times as much power. And something else I want to remind people about at Battery Day was that they specifically detailed there would be a diversified cathode approach. So certain 4680s would go in the Model Y, Model S, or not right away, obviously, but certain 4680s would go in something like a Model Y, but a different kind of 4680 would go in something like the Cybertruck and the Semi. So you can, based on the chemistry of the cathode, you can increase the energy density when weight and energy efficiency becomes more important. But you can bring down the energy density to improve affordability. So right now, Tesla is of course supplier constrained and there's not enough raw materials to match demand. That's why the back order is so long and that's why the prices are so high. But because Tesla, I think, wants to prioritize the higher production capacity right now, because if the limiting factor with EV adoption was that range wasn't high enough, they would focus on that. But that's not the problem. Obviously, there's 300-mile range EVs and they're sold out for a year, and there's more demand than there's ever been before, and the prices have definitely been better in the past. They're high now and people are still ordering them. So to me, that's an indication of Tesla has chosen to put less nickel in the cathode, make a less energy dense battery. And for the sake of structural integrity, you can't just put less batteries. You can't just make high energy dense 4680s and then just take out all the cells, because that battery pack is structural. There's weight to the vehicle. You can't just drop out 1,000 pounds, because then you start to lose some of the rollover protection and you start to lose some of the safety aspects. So I think the way they're optimizing the 4680 line at Texas is that, okay, if we want to increase the range in the future, if we want to make a longer range 4680 Model Y, all we'll have to do is increase the energy density of the 4680s. We don't have to change the number of cells used. It'll be the exact same cells in the long range version. All they have to do is tinker with the cathode chemistry a bit, and boom, you can start making longer range versions, but that's going to cost more. And it's going to require more nickel, which there's not enough of right now. So Tesla, instead of prioritizing longer range, better efficiency, they went for scalability. So I still think that 4680 is important, and I still absolutely see the value in it, and I think it's a tremendous advantage Tesla has over all other EV makers right now, because of how cheap it is to build the tabless electrode. The profit margins on those Giga Texas Model Ys are going to be thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. They're going to be huge margins on that. And people will pay it because, of course, there's demand for it. But where I have changed my tune, of course, as you guys have been watching me for a while probably know, is that, excuse me, the 4680 is far, far more beneficial to Tesla than it is the consumer. Indirectly, it's beneficial to the consumer, but it's very, very indirect. Like in the long term, yes, 4680 will allow Tesla to ramp production faster, and the faster they can catch up on demand and the thicker profit margins they have now, the more money they can invest towards new factories, more expansion, more battery production, and in time that will eventually be passed off to the consumer with cheaper options. But it's not going to happen in the next couple of years. That's going to be like 4680 helps the consumer in regard of the next 10 years. Whereas LFP, I think, is more beneficial to the consumer today because they know the cycle life is much better and you can charge it to 100%, and it helps with affordability. So it's like, I'm not at this point saying that everybody should run out and buy the 4680 Model Y over the 2170 Model Y. honestly, I can understand why a ton of people would much rather buy the Fremont Model Y over the Texas one just for that extra range and the faster acceleration. Um, I think it's a toss up at this point because I could see a lot of people wanting to have a faster charging curve if that rumor ends up being true. So if you wanted something that could supercharge faster on road trips, maybe you don't care about 330 miles of range versus 279. But again, we don't have real life world usage data on these 4680 yet. We don't know how quickly these batteries degrade. You know, we know they're still lithium ion and they still have nickel based cathode, just like 2170s. But if they retain their battery health better, that range difference might not be as massive. And if the cycle life has improved, maybe I don't think Tesla's comfortable. Of course, you can charge 4680s to 100%. The question is, you could charge any battery to 100%. The debate is whether or not you should do it daily. For the record, you can charge any Tesla to 100% daily. It's just more likely to degrade the battery and you'll lose your range faster. Because the battery health will deteriorate. So that's why Tesla recommends you charge 2170 cells and 1865 cells to 80% per day. Elon's even said 90% per day is fine. But no, because the 4680s are not an iron-based cathode, I do not think you'll be able to charge them to 100% every single day without experiencing some degradation, or at least substantially more degradation than you would if you just left it to 80 or 90%. But frankly, I still think 279 miles of range is great, and the fact that it's from the Texas facility, and they said that the structural battery pack may increase handling performance or the build quality may be better. It may feel more ironed out than the Fremont made model. There's all kinds of advantages I could imagine by still going with the Giga Texas model, even if the price is mostly the same. I mean, $3,000 is $3,000. I mean, do I think that 50 miles of range difference is worth the $3,000? For someone with a lot more money than me, probably. But for someone like me, it's like I'd rather just have lower range and take the money at this point. I'd rather just save $3,000 if I were you. That's just me. They only recommend 100 for LFP. These are not LFP. Correct. The 4680s do not get to bypass that limitation on the cathode. Maybe 4680 manufacturing issues simply made energy density an issue for the time being. It's possible, but I think it's more likely that they intentionally chose to make them less energy dense. Because clearly, back at Battery Day, they talked about the higher storage capacity and the higher power. I mean, to me, it makes far more sense that Tesla is prioritizing scale over range. They've already proven that with the Model S. They were like, oh, we're going to do a 520-mile range version. And they were like, actually, it'll be a lot faster and a lot easier if we just reuse the old battery packs. So Tesla likes to recycle, and they like to be resourceful, and they like to figure out, how do we prioritize the most amount of vehicle deliveries above all else? That's what Tesla prioritizes. So it's logical to me that, sure, maybe they haven't found a way to, at scale, build higher energy dense 4680s. But if they found a way to, at scale, build less energy dense batteries, that still aligns with their mission statement. So even regardless of issues with 4680 manufacturing that we don't know about, regardless, it would still make more sense that they're spending time working on the less energy dense version. Like, how cheaply can we make these batteries? That would probably come first, considering that even with 2170 cells and 300 miles of range, the Model Y is sold out for a year, and the price is over $60,000, and there's still freaking people buying it like crazy. So why would Tesla prioritize making a 400-mile range at this point? Like, why would they care? What, like, I don't see why they would try at this point, because the demand would just be even more astronomically crazy. I'm more inclined to believe they're using dummy cells. I don't know, I just haven't really bought into the dummy cell theory. I feel like the way that the wiring and the cooling systems are built, that the dummy cell idea wouldn't be very beneficial. It would just make more sense to build less energy dense cells, which again, they've said themselves in the document that Omar leaked. They chose to make a less energy dense pack. I guess that's the whole pack. Maybe that doesn't count the cells themselves. But I think battery day numbers on the 4680 were opportunity listed. That's how they specified it in the presentation. This allows for a 14% range increase opportunity. This allows for a 6 times power output opportunity. It's like if we need to in the future, there's much more overhead with this battery for ramping up, but that's not a guarantee. That doesn't mean the day one batteries are going to be much better. Okay. Sorry, Wojciech Kaminsky earlier said Tesla will stop taking orders for some models. It will do it in its own smart way. Yeah, they technically already have turned off Cybertruck orders outside of America. SNX will leave only plaid or reduced configuration possibilities, only 6-seater X. 3 will stop long range and raise rear-wheel drive prices. And Y will see the changes at the latest. They have to make the rear-wheel drive. I'm not convinced they will do a rear-wheel drive Model Y, personally, especially after Giga Texas announced they're doing a standard range all-wheel drive. That's something I've never seen Tesla make before. Pretty much any time they've had dual motor, it's been branded as kind of a long range or a higher range option. The powertrain is not that expensive, and it's also not the limiting factor, by the way. Powertrain production is not holding up anything. It's chips and batteries right now. But once the chip shortage is gone, it will be batteries again. So it's like you can, if you know how to build electric motors at scale, which I'm sure Tesla builds more electric motors than anyone, you can crank those things out. And frankly, they're probably very cheap for Tesla compared to everybody else in the industry, just because of how many they're building. And Tesla designs their own powertrains in-house. Other companies, I think, outsource their motor production. I think Rivian doesn't build their own motors. And I don't think Ford does either. But I think that they can easily just make all of the EVs all-wheel drive, and they can justify charging a lot more for that because they're like, well, we got to charge more for the car anyway because we're battery constrained. So if we're charging this much, throwing in an extra motor doesn't really hurt it that badly. I do agree with you, though. Elon has talked about doing only the 6-seater X. I don't agree with that decision because I don't honestly think the 6-seater X is that good. I know a lot of people like it, but I mean, personally, I would rather have a 5 or a 7 just because I like to fold the second row flat. But yeah, I guess people like the captain's chair feel of the 6-seater, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, but I understand that for manufacturing efficiency and simplicity, the Model X long range has got to be on the chopping block. That thing is booked out over a year. And Elon said they do plan on turning off orders for certain models that are booked out too far. Which I don't know if I agree with that decision myself, but I guess it makes sense because you're taking orders and locking in prices on a vehicle you're not going to build for another 12, 15 months. You have no idea what the supply chains are going to look like by then. You're also kind of booking out assembly line time. When you're specifying orders and stuff that you want, you're like, okay, this assembly line has to keep building that kind of order or that kind of vehicle with that configuration for the next 12 to 15 months. And you guys know Tesla, they like to change plans and they like to change configurations all the time. So they're like, well, there's a lot of things that could change by then. We could rearrange the factory. We might change suppliers. We might change batteries again. There's like so much that can change within 12 to 15 months that they probably don't feel very comfortable locking in prices and locking in orders when they're like, we don't know what inflation's going to look like. We don't know what lithium prices or nickel prices are going to be by then. So I think the best way to handle it is to just continue raising the price. Like if you're really that uncomfortable, just raise it another 10 grand. I know that people will hate it, but at least you'll get some orders. You'll lock in some people with absurdly high prices, but they put the deposit down and that means they're willing to pay it. Opposed to just turning off orders entirely, then no one's gonna order it. Whether they're a billionaire or a millionaire, they can't place their order on the vehicle. But I guess in Tesla's mind, that's why, like, well, if you're a billionaire or a millionaire, just buy the Plaid. That's what they're already doing, and they're like, it'll simplify our assembly process to just shut off certain configurations. And I guess Wojciech is probably right about that. Stopping the long range and raising rear-wheel drive is kind of interesting for the Model 3 because I'm still under the belief that you can't do an all-wheel drive LFP, or at least they haven't figured it out yet. Like if they could, they probably would do it by now because the powertrain doesn't cost that much more and you can justify charging a lot more for it. So right now, all Model Ys are all-wheel drive, even the 4681, which is standard range. There's 50 miles of range between those two and $3,000 difference in price. So if we applied that logic right now to the Model 3, the long range I believe is 58 grand. So Tesla could start charging 55 grand for a standard range all-wheel drive Model 3. Let me double check. I haven't looked at the Model 3 prices in a while. I know the long range went up though. 56. Okay, so 53 grand for the standard range all-wheel drive if they did end up doing that. I guess I could see it. They could just start saying like the only thing is the estimated deliveries aren't that far out for long range. It's listed at October to January, which I guess is pretty far, but it's not a year out like the Model Y and XR. But yeah, Elon did say they would start turning off certain orders, and I definitely think the Model 3 rear-wheel drive is going to become an increasingly popular order for people as Model Y prices continue to go up. And word gets out further and further about LFP and the fact that when you have a supercharging network, it doesn't really matter too much what the range is because you're going to be stopping anyway. Like, the reason I felt comfortable going with rear-wheel drive, even though at the time Model 3 long range was a pretty good value, is I was like, okay, 358 miles of range sounds great, but you're never going to go that far on a charge. For one, because Teslas don't hit their EPA. But for two, you're very rarely charging that to 100%. For daily driving, it's going to be 80%, which is only like 10 miles above rear-wheel drive. And on road trips, you don't supercharge until you're at 100. You supercharge until you have enough range to get to the next stop. So I plugged in the road trips we plan on doing and discovered that if I go in Model 3 long range versus Model 3 rear-wheel drive, it ended up being a difference of about 40 minutes. So if it's a difference of 40 minutes for an extra, what is it right now? $9,000 or $8,000. I'd rather have the 8 grand and just have a slightly longer road trip, whatever. I'll just take the money. How many more months will chip shortage last? It's impossible to know. Frankly, I'm not really sure if we'll ever drop that terminology just because a lot of companies will probably use the term chip shortage as an excuse as to why they can't build something fast enough. They can just say, well, there's a chip shortage, you know. But there's a lot of companies trying to counteract it. You know, Samsung is building a fabrication plant in Texas, I believe, for chips. And Tesla seems pretty convinced that the chip shortage is a short-term thing, but here we are in mid-2022 and it's still a problem. So yeah, I don't think we can ever really know because there's going to be so many companies that keep using it as an excuse. Let's see. When Sandy tears it down, we'll know for sure. Correct. Yeah, I'm very much excited for Sandy Monroe's teardown of the 4680 Model Y. Man, I just realized that's going to hopefully happen this year. Hopefully he's able to find someone that's willing to tear it apart, but support Sandy Monroe. He's got to buy all these expensive cars and rip them apart. Just to add to my opinion, you cannot make LFPY all-wheel drive, not enough range, below 250 miles. Yeah, no, I don't personally believe they would do a LFP all-wheel drive Model Y, but I think I understood what you're saying. I thought you meant they were going to reintroduce the 2170 standard range Model Y because the EPA document listed that one for 2022, even though Tesla hasn't sold it this year. I get what you're saying. I was thinking about something very similar. Wojciech brings up a good point. So obviously, at Fremont, we have an LFP Model 3 in production right now. And we know Model Y is a better-selling vehicle. Even Rob Maurer just posted California vehicle statistics. So this is not just EVs, for the record. Of any vehicle in California, any car, truck, van, the Model Y was the best-selling in Q1 at 21,800 vehicles registered. In the state of California, keep in mind the state of California has more people in it than Canada, Australia. It's larger than many countries. It's the most populated state in the U.S. Most popular vehicle of any kind was the Model Y. Model 3 was right behind it at 21,500, so it was very, very close. But what's interesting is the two top sellers are both Teslas, and they're both substantially more expensive than number 3, which was the Toyota RAV4, um, and the Toyota Camry. That's Tesla's outselling Toyota in California already, and as we've seen statistically, California just kind of gives you a preview of what sales are going to be in the rest of the country. So, um, that's crazy. That's amazing. So, I think what Wojciech was getting at that I may start to agree with is, okay, Tesla's importing a bunch of LFP battery packs from China to build the Model 3 rear-wheel drive here in Fremont, right? That's the one I'm getting. Hopefully Tesla doesn't change it up on me so that I can't get it. That would suck. But here's an idea that's probably going to make a lot of sense, because Model Y demand is really, really high right now, to the point where the 4680 Model Y, even though it has less range than long range and the 0 to 60 is slower, is still excuse me, they're still able to charge 60 grand for that thing. $60,000 for a standard range Model Y. If they want to catch up further on Model Y demand, how about instead of building an LFP Model 3, you actually divert all of the LFP battery packs you're importing to an LFP Model Y, because the Model Y is obviously a larger, more practical vehicle. And perhaps LFP can't do all-wheel drive because either the range would be too low, or I've heard people say that the not the voltage, but the power that LFP can output doesn't sustain two motors very well. I've also had the theory for a while. I haven't seen anyone disprove it, but I've had the theory. Oh, hey, thank you for the super chat. I'll answer that in a second. Let me just finish that thought. But thank you, Greg. Okay, so my theory is that the LFP battery pack is physically larger than the cylindrical cells because LFP is less energy dense, so you have to take up more space in the body of the vehicle. I don't think I've seen Sandy Monroe do a teardown of a LFP Model 3, but if the battery takes up more space and it fills up the entire body, the whole entire bottom of the Tesla, you don't really have much extra room for an additional motor or extra wiring in order to get a 60 kilowatt hour pack in there. It's going to be bigger and take up a lot more room. So that's why my theory as to why Tesla hasn't done, even in China, they don't have all-wheel drive LFP. I don't know if there's any EV that you can buy that's all-wheel drive LFP. I think technically Rivian said they're going to do one, but they haven't done it yet. That's still theoretical. Not to mention the Rivian is much larger than a Tesla, even the underbody section. So Tesla would probably have better margins if they switched from using the LFP batteries in the Model 3 and started diverting them to the Model Y, because then you could easily charge, like, all right, standard range all-wheel drive from Texas with 4680, they're charging 60 grand for that. Imagine if you were like, okay, LFP Model Y rear-wheel drive, another 3 grand cheaper. It's probably somewhere close to the same range as the 4680 one, so it's like 270 miles of range, or I don't know, Model 3 is 270, I guess, so maybe Model Y is a bit bigger. That one's 260. So LFP Model Y is 260 miles of range with LFP, but you can charge it to 100% every day. They could still charge 57 grand for that thing, which is 10 grand more than what they're charging for the Model 3, not to mention the Model Y has single-piece castings and a more simplified design, and Tesla themselves has even mentioned on occasion that the Model Y is cheaper to build than the Model 3 because it's got such a more simplified internal engineering and stuff. So, yeah, I think that might make a lot of sense. The only issue I could see with that theory is that whoever's building the LFP Model Y, it's got to be Fremont, right? Because Texas is going to be all specialized in 4680, and I think in the last shareholder deck they said they would eventually start doing 2170 Model Ys at Texas, which surprised me. But my only holdup with that is, okay, you would have to change an assembly line at Fremont. Right now, Fremont is screaming at the highest run rate they've ever been at. They're building as many long-range Model Ys with 2170 cells as they can. All of them are selling for 57, as the backlog catches up. 57 grand, 58 grand, now $63,000 a pop. Whereas if you switched over to LFP, you would have to start selling it at 57,000 or so. So that might technically be diverging $63,000 Model Ys for $57,000 Model Ys. So the margin might be, I don't know, because LFP is supposed to be cheaper. Plus, you get to throw out a powertrain, but yeah, powertrain's not that expensive. So that's my only caveat with that, as the reason to why they're putting LFP in the Model 3 and not the Model Y, because they could still charge a lot for an LFP Model Y, and people would pay it. That's my only holdup. Okay, Greg Swanson, thank you for the super chat. He says, when will we have the Cyber lineup? Cyber 3, Cyber Y are my favorite, the Cyber Roadster. Probably, possibly never, but probably when Tesla has a shortage of models. I think that, excuse me, when the limiting factor preventing EV adoption is Tesla does not have enough trims to choose from, they would start diversifying and start making more cyber-themed version of things. We can't even get the regular Roadster, let alone the Cyber Roadster. I don't think Tesla's in a big rush to have multiple versions of the Roadster. They seem to be far more interested in doing robo-taxis and autonomous stuff. I know why you're excited for that. I would be too. I would love to have a Cyber 3 or a Cyber Y. I want a Cyber lineup myself, but I just have to acknowledge that it does not support Tesla's mission statement. It just doesn't. Like, Tesla's mission is to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, and the more you complicate your assembly line with different trims and different models, the slower you're able to produce vehicles and the more expensive your business cost to maintain. So probably another 10 years before they would start considering diversifying up all these sedans and crossovers. I don't think it's going to happen soon. They're just going to be focused on building as many vehicles as possible, not having 40 different models to choose from. Tesla's already outselling Toyota and Honda, and they only have, like, really 2 vehicles. I mean, the S and X are so expensive, and it's a fraction of their sales, but Model 3 and Y are dominating, and those 2 vehicles have so much in common already. They're so simple. They're sharing, like, 75% of parts. Someone else will once the Cybertruck comes out. Yeah, that's a good theory. If the Cybertruck comes out and it's a big hit and a lot of people start buying it, then probably other companies will start making vehicles that look Cybertruck-esque. So maybe we'll get a Cyber lineup from some other brand before Tesla. That's honestly possible. Got here, not sure if you talked about it already, but isn't it still illegal for Tesla to sell cars directly in Texas? Technically, yes, but there's a very, very easy loop around. Tesla has delivered thousands and thousands of vehicles to customers in Texas. You don't have to drive out of the state. There's lots of people driving them around there. They've delivered vehicles to employees. Basically, the point of sale has to be outside of Texas, but you pay for the car online. So the point of sale technically happens on a server that Tesla can put theoretically anywhere. So they just say, okay, wire us the money now. And then they accept the money in a California server and go, okay, the car is technically yours. There's lots of people that take delivery of Teslas in Texas. It's a stupid law, but yeah, like Scott just said, from everyone I've talked to about our dealership law in Texas, it's illegal for them to host the sale in the state. It's not illegal for them to build and deliver directly to the customer. Basically, long short of it is that it's not a big deal. Some people think it's going to prevent Tesla from being able to deliver vehicles, but honestly, it hasn't yet, and it probably won't. They'll just continue to have the host of the sale outside on some server that's not based in Texas, and they get to bypass the law. It's fine. Tesla's smart. They found a workaround. It's not a new thing. They've been delivering cars there for quite some time. Matt Hudson said, what's the short answer on what 4680 on what I think you mean why the 4680 has less range? Seems bearish. I think it's simple, and it's not necessarily bearish. I'm not sure why Tesla wants to not talk much about it, but in the document that Omar tweeted out, that I retweeted with the quote, is that they've decided to go with a lower energy density pack to prioritize affordability. And I think that goes both ways. Not so much affordability for the consumer, although it is technically a little bit cheaper than the long range. More so to prioritize affordability on Tesla. It's cheaper to build the Model Y by using a lower range, lower energy density pack. That's the short answer. You can scale up production faster and cheaper, which is the most important factor preventing EV adoption right now. It's not even cost. The main limiting factor is not lack of range. It's not lack of options. It's not lack of cost. it's not lack of affordability. The limiting factor preventing EV adoption is scale, production scaling. So they're gonna build their vehicles and spec them according to what allows us to ramp the production the fastest. So I don't see how that's bearish at all, because the more vehicles Tesla delivers, the more money they make. That's pretty accurate. And they've said that Giga Texas is the most streamlined, simplified assembly process they've ever made. So the margins they're going to have out of the Giga Texas facility are going to be way better than the margins out of Fremont. And they'll probably eventually build more Model Ys out of Texas than they do Fremont. So it's like, what side of this is bearish? Tesla will deliver more vehicles than before, and for cheaper than before, with thicker margins than before. It's just that if you think it's bearish, you're completely disconnected from reality. That's I think what frustrates me the most, that I see in my comment section and that I see in videos constantly, is how many freaking people out there are convinced that any EV, not just Tesla, Ford or VW or Rivian or Lucid, any EV out there is going to have demand problems. No one has demand problems. Even the BMW i3 sells, and that thing's a piece of crap. It's got terrible range, it's not very efficient, and it's very expensive, and people still buy it. Gas is that bad, people. Gas cars are that terrible that even the electric Hummer is selling. Tens of thousands of people want to spend over $100,000 on the electric Hummer, and that thing's ridiculous. That's how bad gas cars are. That's why there's so much demand for EVs, is because people are sick of paying for gas, and it's become more and more clear to a very large percentage of the population, this is the future, this is where things are going. It's not from, oh, the Model Y is going to have less range. Like, what are we comparing the 4680 Model Y to? Do you think the Ioniq 5 is going to outsell it? Have you seen the delivery numbers? Have you seen the registrations of EVs in the US? The Model X, the $115,000 Model X, is outselling the Nissan Leaf. Would you guys grasp that at all? This is not a chart. EVs are not selling at the highest volume based on what the addressable market is. It's based on who can build the most. Do you think there's more people that want a Model X than a Nissan Leaf? Perhaps. Nissan Leafs maybe aren't that desirable, but who do you think? I think we're all in agreement in saying that there's far more people that can afford a Leaf than a Model X, that's for sure. But Tesla can build more Model X's than Nissan can build Leafs. So the Model X outsold the Leaf in the US. So I just see way too many people that are disconnected from that reality, that are concerned that if range is low or if the price is bad, that means someone else is going to pass Tesla. That has never happened. It still hasn't happened. I don't mean bearish for the company, but I thought the first 4680 Model Y would have more range, but your point is well taken. Thanks for responding. I thought the same too. You know, that's what Tesla led us to believe. I just think that circumstances around the company completely changed the direction. I think when Battery Day was going on, they likely thought, okay, structural pack, higher energy density, new battery, this will allow for better range and better pricing. Back in end of 2020, that's probably what they thought would be important and more logical, but the demand backlog grew insanely high, and it kind of caught them off guard. And once gas prices started going up, they got a whole other wave of demand, and that's why prices continue to go up. So Tesla realized, okay, range is not the problem. We're fine on range. We don't need a crap ton more range to get more people to buy EVs. There's plenty of people buying EVs with the current range specs. In fact, there's still a lot of people very, very excited to buy the F-150 Lightning with 230 miles of range. So any EV that can, decently fast charge and gets over 200 miles per charge is going to sell. Doesn't matter how crappy it looks or how dated the interior or exterior is, people will buy it. And Tesla knows that. So they went all in on production efficiency with this 4680 model. And that was not the crowd pleaser choice. I acknowledge that. I understand why people are disappointed. I was as well. We wanted the Model Y. But From a business perspective, it does make perfect sense. Um, do you think the Model Y and or 3 will get a refresh in the next 5 years? The 3 is going on the same exterior design for 5 years. Again, it really does come back to Tesla's extreme focus. Like, do they think there's a reason? Do they think there's an issue, like with the Model 3 exterior, that's preventing adoption? I don't think so. I think at this point they're gonna scale way, way, way back on interior and exterior updates. The only updates they're gonna make are, will this update let us build vehicles faster? So theoretically, if there was some change to the exterior of the Model 3 or Y that they could make that would allow them to ramp vehicles faster, I don't know what that would be. Maybe they ditched the fog lights or something, or they changed the headlight shape or something, or used some different supplier for the lamps, or I don't know. I don't know what it could be. I don't think that lights are the limiting factor, for the record, but uh, if there was some exterior change that allowed them to ramp vehicles for cheaper and faster, then yeah, there might be some tweaks. But I don't think it'll be just for the sake of, we want it to look newer, we want it to look more mean and aggressive because demand's crazy off the charts. So 5 years is a long time, I guess. Tesla's done a lot in 5 years. So yeah, it's probably likely there will be some change. I can't put a pin on what exactly it will be. I don't think it'll be major, like the Model S front. Remember, it had the big black oval on the front in the old days, and then they got rid of that with the cleaner grille in 2016, I think it was. They started switching Model S's to that new design. Or something as massive as the 2021 Model S and X refresh with the new display and the yoke and all that. I get the feeling they're not happy with how long it took to change the assembly line over. I can't remember when he tweeted it, but there was a reply Elon made to someone's tweet where he was like, it was a bad idea in hindsight to shut down the Model X assembly line in the middle of, they already had a lot of demand for the old Raven Model X, not even the refreshed Model X with plaid or anything. There was already a big backlog on that, and they had to shut down the assembly line to update it with the yoke and the new interior and the new powertrain. There was all these upgrades they had to make, and Elon was like, well, that was dumb because there was still a crap ton of demand for the old vehicle, and by shutting down the assembly line and upgrading it, we missed out on a bunch of potential deliveries, and we made the backlog grow even further. So that's why it's still, they have not recovered from the Model X backlog. It's the most delayed vehicle on the website. Has the limiting factor paid you to promote his channel today? No. But it's a common expression, and it comes up a lot in EVs because I think most people aren't used to analyzing markets that are supply constrained. Most people are used to markets that are demand constrained. That's what we talk about in the smartphone community, or the computer industry, or even the gas car industry. You're used to the car company that makes the most affordable car will sell the best, or the car company that makes the most desirable, cool looking, best value vehicle will sell the best. And in this situation, it's completely thrown out. It's not like the smartphone market. It's not like the computer market. It's not like the headphone market. It's not like any other electronics. That analyzing this market is more like, whoever can build the most will sell the most. Doesn't matter who builds the cheapest one, or who builds the one with the most range. Tesla does not build the cheapest EVs. Tesla does not build the EVs with the highest range. Tesla doesn't even build the EVs with the fastest acceleration. Technically, the Rimac Nevera, and even if it's super low volume, it's faster than a Plaid Model S. The Lucid goes further than the Model S. The Lucid Air can go further on a charge than any Tesla. And the VW ID4 is cheaper than any Tesla they currently sell, as is the starting Ioniq 5, Nissan Leaf, Chevy Bolt, all undercut Teslas. But Tesla outsells everybody else. So it's not from the highest range, it's not from the fastest acceleration, it's not from the cheapest price. We have to point at something and say, okay, what are they doing that sets them aside from everyone? Supercharging network, software, production capacity. That's their advantage. Which model will be the first to be pulled from ordering page? My guess is the Model X. I think so too. That's the one that's pushed out the most. I think Wojciech Kaminski is probably right on his theory. If demand for the Model X continues to grow at this rate, then they're just going to scrap the long range for a while. Not permanently, but They'll just only take Plaid Model X orders. They'll say, sorry, that's the only one we want to make right now. 250 miles of range is pretty good. People don't drive that in a day. I think the dated mindset is that EVs have to match gas cars in range, and I still see pretty big YouTubers that claim that. They're like, well, yeah, the EVs have a way to go. They're kind of cool now, but they're not going to go mainstream until the range is the same as gas cars. And I disagree. Like, most charging will be done from home, and if you get to the point where you can mass produce like a 400-mile range vehicle, it'll be far more practical to sell 200-mile range vehicles for half the price. Like, if it's possible to build a $40,000 EV that can go 400 miles on a charge, then it's fairly likely you'd be able to build like a $25,000 EV that can go 200 miles. Which one do you think is going to sell better? Like, do people really need that extra range? Some people do. I'm not saying no one does. I know if you live in a cold climate or you do a lot of road tripping, yeah, some people will buy high range EVs. I'm not denying that that will exist. There will be a market for high range EVs. Most people won't do it though. That's my theory. As the charger network expands and as more and more people charge from home, realize how easy that is and how you can leave the house with a close to full charge every day, they'll start to go, "Oh, well, I don't need 400. It's way cheaper for me to just get a 220, 250 mile range EV, save 10, 20 grand. And unless you absolutely desperately need that 400 miles, you won't get it." So the people who really need it will, and the people who don't will compromise with something else. But to answer the question from earlier about the Model 3 and why, I think, of course, there will be some minor changes, but I don't think it'll be super obvious. I don't think it'll be giant. Um, if anything, maybe Tesla will tweak the interior to get rid of the gear stocks. The way I see auto shift working and the gear selector on the display on the Model S and X, I'm like, you could adjust the design of the steering wheel and probably make some kind of simpler interaction on the Model 3 and Y where forward and backward is just done on the display. You're already doing everything on the display at this point anyway. And then you just have to add a few buttons to the steering wheel. Dare I say they might even go with the yoke on the 3 and Y? I just know it's controversial, but clearly it's not controversial enough because tons of people are buying the Model S and X. Some people, of course, don't like the yoke. Most people I know that try the yoke really like it after trying it for an extended period. If you like buy a Model S and X and drive around with it for a month or 2 months, they'll say, "Oh yeah, it's great. I would rather have a yoke to a steering wheel." That people get used to it. Excuse me. But Model 3 and Y are just such higher volume. I don't know. It might turn too many people away from the 3 or Y, but who knows? Maybe Tesla can afford that, right? If demand is high enough for the 3 and Y, who cares if people don't like the yoke, right? Just make the one, just make the car you want, and if people don't like it, okay, buy a different EV. There's too much demand for Teslas. They can afford to shave off some demand. So just because it's more of a mass market vehicle, they probably won't go with a yoke on the 3 or Y, but I could easily see them trying to simplify the interior further and just say, okay, now you just change the gear and do the everything on the display instead of the gear stocks, and then you have your autopilot option and you have your windshield wiper options and all that just built into the steering wheel. Tesla had prototypes of Model S and X refreshes with full steering wheels, and it has all the capacitive buttons of the Plaid, just with the full wheel completed. Maybe they'd bring that to the 3 and Y eventually. I don't know. I just think that it won't be motivated by like trying to make the vehicle cooler. It won't be like, we want the Model 3 to look more aggressive or we want the Model Y to be cooler. It'll be just, will this design tweak let us build the car cheaper or faster? And if they find any of those tweaks that can do that, then they'll do it. Maybe they'll get rid of more interior options or something. I don't know. Maybe not diversify with the black and white interior. Maybe some kind of hybrid interior approach so they can just have one size fits all for the interior. I'm looking at the website right now just because this is pretty much the the vehicle I'm going to take delivery of in a couple months that I'm excited for. But I'm like, what could they do to this? You know, I was like, what could they change? I think they're pretty happy with the black trim. I don't think they'll go back on that again or tweak it again. But I have a feeling that the 2022 Model 3s and Ys are going to look fairly new and recent for many years to come. I don't think there will be a design tweak that makes them all look dated very quick. I'm a big fan of the ID4 as well. I've said that many, many times. If Tesla canceled my order, theoretically, if Tesla said, sorry, we're not going to build your car, you suck, I hate you. If they did that and said, sorry, you can't buy any Tesla from us because we figured out full self-driving, congrats, we're going to just build robotaxis from here on out, I would buy an ID4. Seriously. I drove one. I was very impressed with it. Definitely wasn't impressed enough to get it over to Tesla, but I was like, as far as non-Tesla EVs go, the price is very, very good, and I love the 3 years of Electrify America charging. That's a huge benefit to me, and I love the turning radius. I like the acceleration. The seats were comfortable. I like the screen layout. The software, of course, isn't as good as a Tesla, but again, if Tesla just took all their options away and didn't let me buy any vehicle from them, I'd be like, okay, I'll buy an ID4. It would be cheaper than the Model 3 I'm buying, and it's a crossover. It's got more cargo space, which is cool. How about make yoke or normal an option like wheel style / size? The reason I don't think they would do that is it would complicate manufacturing. That would slow down their production output. I don't think they're going to make changes to the Model 3 and Y that slow down how quickly they can build them. And I think creating a steering wheel versus yoke option would slow things down. Do we have any reason as to why 4680 range is so bad yet so dang heavy? Well, yeah, that's basically what I talked about in the stream. Is they're for one, the range isn't bad. I mean, look around the EV market. 279 miles is pretty average, pretty standard. That's why it's called standard range. But it's lower energy density batteries. They don't have as much energy that they can hold. So it's the same number of cells as a long range Model Y would be, but they're just not filling the cathode with as much nickel. So it just means that they don't hold as much energy. And for safety and low rollover risk and for handling, you don't want the vehicle to be super duper light. You don't want to drop 2,000 pounds because then, you don't have a big combustion engine planning you down. That battery pack is so much of the weight. So there's a lot of performance and safety advantages to having a large amount of weight at the floor of the vehicle. So just because it's standard range, I don't think that means they need to shave off several thousand pounds. But they're prioritizing production efficiency. So that's why the range isn't that good. But Tesla knows people will buy it. So they're building based on demand. They're building based on how do we deliver as many vehicles as possible. And obviously, if you made a vehicle with 10 miles of range, not enough people would buy that. So Tesla's trying to calibrate the chemistry and the production so that, okay, we want to make a vehicle that we know people will be willing to pay for. And hey, if they don't get enough orders, maybe they update the configurator. Anybody in the US can now order a $60,000 standard range all-wheel drive Model Y. If they don't get enough orders, they'll lower the price. Congrats. There will be a cheaper one. They'll make it 55 grand until there's enough people ordering it, and then they'll adjust the pricing accordingly. So let's hope for lack of demand. Lack of demand would mean better prices for us, but we're not there yet. I love the yoke too. I would love it if they brought the yoke and the touchscreen gear selector to the Model 3. I'd be super duper happy if they announced that tomorrow and they were like, all people who take delivery of the Model 3 after this point will get yoke in their Model 3. Maybe a bunch of people would cancel, but I'd be like, yes, I'll take it. That's just how I like it. I'm not in favor of there being a lack of options. I know some people would be annoyed by it, but everyone I watch who has used the yoke for an extended period of time has been like, oh yeah, this is better. Everyone who hates on the yoke hasn't tried it, which is why I'm pessimistic. I'm like, try it out. Use it for like a month or two, and then tell me you want the steering wheel again, because I haven't seen anyone do that yet. Closest I've seen is Kyle from Out of Spec says he prefers the full steering wheel, but he doesn't own a Model S with a yoke, and he's also more into drifting, and that was his main argument, is that for high performance track cars and for doing lots and lots of drifting, the steering wheel is better than a yoke. And I'm like, okay, that is like a percent of most people driving. The vast majority of people are not drifting or doing high performance track stuff, especially on like lower spec, like rear wheel drive Model 3 or that kind of thing. I mean, sure, Tesla makes fast cars, but it's not like that's what most driving is. Yeah, we talked about the software limited range idea. I don't think that's it, because for one, it would cost a lot more. And Tesla already said at Battery Day they're capable of making different energy dense 4680 cells. They can make some batteries that cost more but hold more energy. And they said they can make 4680s that hold less energy but cost less to build. So that's because they said that's possible, and the fact that we're production constrained right now, not demand constrained, it would make perfect sense to me as to why they wouldn't bake in more range and be secretive about it. I also don't think it's the EPA would be kind of weird about it if they were like, oh, here's the efficiency and then you software unlock more range. Actually, the EPA changed its range. I don't think that's it. I've never seen Tesla do that before, or at least very much. If they do a software update, it's usually because they found some way to tinker the HVAC system, and that gives you a little bit more range. It's not like they're just software limiting the batteries. When they do that, they're usually pretty transparent about it. Before they used to have the Standard Range Plus and then the off-menu Standard Range Model 3. The hardware was the same, but they just took off like 20 miles of range. So that doesn't really answer a lot of people's like, yeah, but the 4680 is supposed to be higher range. It's like, okay, if you unlocked some extra capacity of the pack, it would be like 20 and another 20 miles of range. So that makes it 20 or 30 miles. Okay, now it's 310 miles of range instead of 330 on the long range. Yeah, I don't think it would be that big a difference. If they were really, really hiding that much energy in the pack, it would be kind of wasteful. I think if you can only so many people are convinced at this point, no matter what I say or explain, so many people are convinced that if you build a 4680 battery, it has to have a certain amount of energy in it. There's no way around that. It has to have way more energy than the 2170 equivalent, relative to volumetric size. I know 2170s are smaller, but they're like, if it has 4680, that means it has to go over 400 miles. And if it doesn't have over 400 miles, that means it's not 4680. It must be something else. Then maybe they're doing 2170, or maybe they're doing LFP. It's like, you can just use the same cells, just less nickel in the cathode, less energy dense. It's okay. That's cheaper. Why would Tesla spend all of this money, eat into their margins, and then not let people utilize it? I don't know. It's possible, but based on the comments Tesla used in that employee document that Omar leaked, I don't think it's very likely. I'm fairly convinced it's just lower energy density pack. I've yet to see anything proving otherwise. If Sandy Monroe tears it apart and says, actually, it's a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack in all these Model Ys, even though it's standard range, it's like, okay, all right, I stand corrected. But that's usually not what happens. Usually the Tesla is secretly making the product way better than we think, and we just have to wait for the software update. That's usually when they fall short. Bravo Bang says, what's your estimated delivery date? It hasn't changed. It's still July 29th to September 9th. So I got pushed back a month since I ordered. But I know people that get moved up and some people get delayed, so no updates to report. I check it every day. I'll prove it to you. You can look here. Let me cover this. I don't know if this info is important, but July 29th. So hopefully not much longer. I'm very much ready. I'm sick of paying for gas. Lupus says, just reserved the Roadster last Thursday. So glad Elon announced production next year. Oh my God. I hope you're kidding. I don't think the Roadster's going to be produced next year. Or if you just ordered now, you're not going to get it next year. That's for sure. I'm still using T-Mobile to stream. Took delivery of my Model X Plaid delivery. What? Took delivery of my Model X Plaid last week, and I got used to the yoke in about 10 miles. That's awesome. Congrats, Mohammed. I hope you enjoy it. That's my, other than the Plaid part, Model X is my dream Tesla. That's wonderful. If you ever want to meet up so I can do a video on it, I would be more than happy to, just because I have been trying to test drive a Model S and X since they refreshed it, but Tesla's not offering test drives with them, unfortunately. So Twitter, Discord, just reach out if you're interested. But if not, I get it. It's an expensive vehicle. Can someone advise Ford that they do not need commercials for the Lightning? Seems like wasted money on a high demand product. I know, right? It drives me nuts. It convinces me that Ford is more focused on how the public perceives them than how many EVs they actually deliver. Because whenever Jim Farley talks or whenever Ford talks about EVs, they always sound very ambitious. It's always like, yeah, we're going to build the most EVs and we're going to pass Tesla and we care about affordability and, you know, we're making a well-established brand. People like F-150s. Now we have an electric option, or people like Mustangs and people like electric crossovers. But then you look at how many they build and it's like, I don't think you're that serious about this. And then you see the dealer markups, and Ford doesn't really crack down on it. It's happened for years now. Ford dealers keep attaching these giant markups, and Ford is like, "Don't do that, dealers! Please stop that!" And then the dealers are like, "Okay, we'll stop," and then they keep doing it. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think they care as much as they see. I see action on Tesla's part that's like, Tesla will actively do something that hurts their reputation, that hurts their brand, but prioritizes the mission statement of accelerating the transition. And Ford does more of the opposite. They're like, we will deliver less cars and we will slow the transition to electric so that we look better in the public. It's almost completely two different. And it's not just the media. It's not just interviews. It's like online. People on Twitter, people in the comments I interact with are like, yeah, Ford's great because they're not increasing their prices, you know, and they're actually trying to make an electric truck that's 40 grand. That's an insanely good value. Whereas Tesla is like, well, demand's too high, so we're going to raise the prices so that we can collect a thicker margin, and then we'll take that thicker margin and invest it in more factories and more batteries. So it's like, I believe that the action Tesla takes does help build more EVs faster. And I think Ford is trying to prioritize the consumer by making them feel like they're getting a good deal, but Ford will actively lose money on the vehicle just so that they can say, yeah, but we delivered an affordable vehicle. Like, that guy's happy that he didn't have to spend as much on his EV. It's like, yeah, but Ford, you lost money on this, right? Yeah, but that doesn't matter. We just want to make a quality product that didn't cost too much. It's like, well, okay, you could do that, or the dealers could take a big fat cut because they're going to adjust the price accordingly to find it so that someone will pay for it. And then the dealer just takes a big profit and, I don't know, doesn't do anything with that money other than just tries to continue upselling people on cars. Whereas Tesla doesn't have to share the revenue with the dealer. They can just put that money towards more EV production. So I saw a lot of comments about that yesterday. They're like, who cares? Tesla raises their price. Ford has dealer markups. At the end of the day, what difference does it make? I was like, here's the difference. Ford loses money. Pointless middleman makes money for no gain. Versus Tesla profits money, uses that money to make more EVs. That's what matters more. You had to wire transfer the extra 45 to them over the weekend, like a long wait. If production starts next year, I'd definitely love to meet up if I'm able to take delivery. Good luck, man. I'm just not convinced the Roadster's coming out next year, but I hope you get your car. That's a lot of money. Excuse me. My God. You had to give Tesla 50 grand for a reservation. I have to give Tesla 50 grand for my car. Then I get the whole car. That's it. Oh, my God. I'll shoot you a DM on Twitter and go from there. Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. Appreciate that. Oh, my God. I ordered in November and my thing got pushed to August. I'm dying. Oh, my God. I'm going to be so annoyed if I get my delivery date pushed back. We're trying to plan these trips around when we get the Tesla, but we have no idea. We have no idea when it's going to get here. Naaman says, look at the Model Y headlight between models. Yeah, I know. The Model Y Performance has a matrix LEDs, and the long range does not. It's been that way for a while. At least, I believe it's still the same. Yep. At least on the configurator, it looks like that still. Okay, Model Y long range, if I go with Gemini wheels, still says February to May for 2023 estimated delivery. Wow. It's not going down. My goodness. Model Y performance says July to September. That's still actually quite. I mean, it's definitely a lot sooner, but I love the look of the performance tires, to be honest. They're just so impractical. I don't like the bumpier ride, and I don't like the hit and efficiency, but they look great. Problem is, I don't look at the outside of my car that much. I'm just like in a parking lot walking up to it. I'm like, yeah, that looks great. And then I sit in the car for 4 hours. You look at the car for a couple seconds when you walk out to it, which is why I'm not super interested in like the ceramic coats or the preserving the paint, or I don't even wash my car very much. I feel like I'll be more like Chris from Dirty Tesla and just kind of let the outside of my Tesla get dirty and wash it occasionally. But I I'm not that kind of guy that's like everything has to be just, oh, there's rock chips in this. Oh, I got this slight little curve that it's. I'm not looking at that. I don't know. Maybe I've never bought a car like this before. Maybe when I get the car, my opinion will change. My white balance is going crazy. That's weird. The lighting isn't changing, but that's weird. 4680 battery shipping. Yeah, it's been shipping for a couple weeks, but it seems like they just want to deliver them around Austin. So far, just to employees, but now they've started opening it up to people in the Austin area that have Model Y long range reservations. And I've been scanning all across Twitter and Reddit, and I haven't seen anyone that has agreed to go through with it, which is frustrating because it's like, I mean, I get it. Like, why would you spend more money to get a vehicle with less range? And, you know, most people probably would rather just have a Fremont Model Y because the range is higher. But um, still, I just want someone that's not an employee to get a 4680 Model Y so that they can show us the charging stats, tell us about ownership and the efficiency, and, you know, just let's get some data on this stuff. Let's get some analytics, and I want like a AMA on the 4680 Model Y. Um, Honestly, the Model X is the coolest car, especially with the white interior. Absolutely, white interior looks dope. That's on the Model 3. It looks great, and it looks even better on the Model X, for sure. Lupus says, I work trade here in Chicago and own a game studio, so money wasn't much of an issue. I definitely a big upfront cost, but I'd be able to write it off over the next 3 to 5 years. Wow. Well, congratulations. I hope you get it soon. That's a lot of money, man. Good for you. That's wonderful. Thanks for clearing the headlights up for me. Yeah, that's not new. Um, oh goody shit. I already got the DM. Appreciate that. Thank you. But before I forget, for the people that are helping me achieve my goals of taking delivery, we have our executive and enhanced members of the Tesla Fund here, starting with, sorry, it's a little blurry. Everything's all weird. Joshua Vinnick, Dennis P. You know what? I'm just going to turn off the bokeh effect. It doesn't look cool right now. There we go. Dennis P., Dr. Mark Choi, who's a dentist in the Woodland area, Bennett Williams, Joshua Levitsky, and Robert Brindle. All of you guys on Patreon supporting directly. Seriously, helps us out a lot as we get closer and closer. I'm very grateful. And you chose white on white, right, Drew? So the Apple Store package? Yes, correct. I have white interior, white exterior. For a while there, I was like, okay, one of the, not the only reason, but one of the primary reasons we went with the white interior was because it moved up the estimated delivery a month, and we wanted to get it sooner. But now that I've been pushed back to the point now where there's a couple trips where I'm like, I don't know if we're going to be able to take a delivery by then. We might have to just fly or whatever. I was like, maybe I should opt for the black interior if I'm going to have to wait longer anyway and just save $1,000. But then I realized, as high as gas prices are and how much we have to spend to drive places these days, like, I'm not actually going to save that much money by going with a black interior if it ends up delaying my delivery by another month. Because, I mean, gas doesn't cost us $1,000 a month, but at this rate, it's, you know, probably over 200 or so. It's getting worse. It's gotten worse in the past week than it was a month ago. It's like well over $5 a gallon where I am, and we're gonna be spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on gas just driving around um, for a longer period of time by opting for black. So I'd really only be saving probably a few $100s, not a grand. And also, I'm just tired of driving my gas car. I don't like driving it, and I'm ready for an EV. So I'm like, nope, I'll just keep it the way it is. I like the white interior anyway. Um, is it true if I bought a color instead of choosing the free one that the order would move close? Just curious. Estimated delivery date is September. That's the running premise right now. Yes, yeah. Tesla will move up your. It's not just the exterior. It's really just kind of any add-on. Like for instance, I'm looking at the Model Y configurator right now. Um, it doesn't really matter what color. It's more so just about like, okay, if I add the 20-inch wheels, that moves it from February to November. Okay, if let's say you want the 19-inch wheels, but I add the tow hitch, that moves it from February to November. Same thing with the white interior or any of the colors. Yeah, the free colors don't move up your date, but the blue one will move it from February to November. The black one, February to November. So it's not specifically the exterior color. It's just any kind of add-on you do. And for a while they were prioritizing FSD, but I think that got too complicated, so they've stopped doing that. Um, yeah, the FSD option no longer updates your delivery date because there were too many people getting FSD with the car, and then once they were assigned a VIN, they would remove FSD as like a loophole. But Tesla couldn't find a way to prevent that loophole from happening, so they just got rid of that. So now even the base Model Y, if you order it with FSD, it doesn't move your estimated delivery. Did you end your YouTube subscription thing? I don't seem to have the little wheel anymore. No, I haven't changed it. It should still be there. Mohammed's still got it. I don't know. Maybe something happened on your end. I don't know. It's $6 plus here for get name brand fuel in San Jose. Oof, my God, that sounds awful. Skylar says the car I drive is over a decade old, and I, like you, wonder if I'll baby the new car. Yeah, my Hyundai is from 2007, so and I have friends with older cars than me, but yeah, I'm done with it. I'm so ready. When I test drove a 3, he was trying to convince me to add FSD because that moves up delivery date. Yeah, it did for a while, but not anymore. I don't know why they would be telling you that now. They probably haven't heard. Um, but yeah, Apple Store package. I'm excited to see it. Oh, everyone on Reddit hypes up the white interior. They were like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I got it. It looks so nice." So it's getting me pumped, and I'm just ready for autopilot again. I haven't driven a Tesla in a while. I've driven my friend's Model Y, and I drove a Model 3 like 3 years ago now. It's been a while, but I'm ready to drive it again. Um, I remember not too long ago how you rationalized you wouldn't be in the market for an EV. Yeah, the main reason before I could rationalize it was because I was convinced Tesla stock is only going to get higher in the grand scheme of things. In the short term, it'll go up and down, but over the course of 10 years, Tesla stock is a lot cheaper now than it will be in 10 years. But I thought vehicle prices are only going to get lower. So over time, at the time I was saying that Tesla prices were going down year after year. In 2020, they had a $40,000 Model Y. And back then, when prices were incrementally going down and down and lower and lower and lower, you're like, wow, this is great. What's the rush? I'm sure if I wait even longer, the Model Y might even get cheaper, or the Model 3 might even get cheaper, or Tesla's talking about this Model 2. Maybe they're going to do a $25,000 Tesla in the future. So maybe we just wait and see how much lower the prices can get. But obviously, 2021 rolls around, and it starts creeping back up, and you're like, oh, now Elon's talking about shutting off orders. I'm not so convinced that Teslas are just going to get progressively more and more affordable over time. I think the price hikes might continue to get worse, especially with inflation and gas prices. Um, I I slowly started realizing, okay, if we want to get a Tesla for some reasonable price, we might have to get one now. And also, we started driving more just because we live in kind of a rural area and there's friends and family we want to visit that aren't necessarily close by. And we were like, you know what, we've worked a lot, we've spent a lot of time at home, and I don't think we want to keep doing that. We want to explore and we want to see more places and stuff. So as more time has gone on, we've realized we're going to be driving quite a bit, and safety is important, that kind of thing. I hear the white interior is pretty durable and easy to clean. I always get white. I know a lot of people that don't like it, but I don't care. Remember the new tax credit for Teslas? Yeah, I remember that too. Everyone was convinced there would be a federal tax credit for Tesla. That didn't happen. I would kill for that off menu $35,000 Model 3. Oh my god, that thing was a bargain. I had no clue how good a deal it was until now. I don't think I would have bought it anyway because when they had the 35K Model 3, it didn't come with autopilot, which I absolutely would want. But the standard range plus did come with autopilot and it was $3,000 more. So it was like, yeah, just get standard range plus. That was the one we wanted to get originally, but we just had other life financial decisions going on. It was like, well, my income's very volatile, so we should probably alleviate debt. We want to buy a house, so we bought the house. And, with the pandemic, we were like, we should probably make sure that we secure our future and don't, have income all over the place. So we like, let's pay off the house before we buy a really nice, expensive car. So we paid off the house. And after that, we focused on investments for a while, build up passive income a bit. And then we were just like, okay, I think we're at a point in life where we feel we can responsibly buy a Tesla. Your main reasoning, you said, was you didn't drive very much. Well, that was part of it. But as time went on, we started driving more and more. Because we wanted to, we went on trips and we started visiting more people that were far away from us. And we were like, man, we missed you guys. And it's been too long since we've seen you. And, there's a lot of friends and family we hadn't seen for a while because of COVID and travel. But we were like, okay, we want to come see you guys more regularly. We got the LFP Model 3. Current gas prices will essentially, for Uber and Lyft drivers, encourage Uber and Lyft drivers to strongly consider EVs. Uber prices are insane right now. That's a good point. And I've seen Uber bringing that up as well. They have more dedicated options on their website for like good EVs to look into. The new tax credit. The reason you will drive more and more once you get your car. Yeah, you're probably right. There's a lot of driving I don't do right now, but if we did have a Tesla, I would make the drive. Like, I'm not interested in driving my gas car to my parents' place out of state. It's like a 14-hour road trip, and gas is crazy expensive right now. So my options are Tesla moves me up, and they deliver our car, and then I would drive. If Tesla doesn't move us up and deliver our car, then we're gonna fly. We're not gonna drive it. It would be cheaper to take the Tesla because of supercharging rates and electricity being cheaper. It would be cheaper to drive than fly, so we would do that. But we don't have the car right now, so we can't do it, which sucks. I just got mine, standard 3. You don't realize how much energy autopilot saves you. I think I do. I've used it very briefly, and I remember loving it. And before I used autopilot, I knew about Teslas and I talked about Teslas, but I was always just like, yeah, they're kind of cool, but too much for me. I can't really afford that. And then once I tried a Tesla with autopilot, I was like, oh my God, I need to rearrange some funds. I was like, I need to start saving. We need to figure out how to make this work. Only 40K. Wow, that's a great deal. That's awesome. Just buy the ID4, save the money. I know it's a Tesla channel, but I would. I like the ID4, but I definitely would rather have the supercharging network. And like Steven said, autopilot is absolutely a godsend and far better than any of the other driving assist features I've seen. And I've watched them all compared on out of spec and rated compared to other drivers. And also, I want to do videos on FSD beta. I don't know how hard or easy it's going to be to get the beta. I don't plan on paying for FSD outright, but that's only because of the subscription. I'll just subscribe to it on a monthly, like on this month I want to see how beta is doing, and then I'll shut it off on the months that not much is happening. So I'll just like subscribe to the beta, do videos on it, and experience it on occasion. But the software and the display and the interior design is so much better on the Model 3 than the ID4. ID4 is more traditional, basic car look, which is fine. It's a newer car. Most cars have that kind of, there's a display, you connect your phone has CarPlay. It's, all these other cars do the same thing, but Tesla's is like in its own ballpark. Like, we actually watch movies and shows like in our car sometimes if we're like driving somewhere and then have some time to kill. We'll just park and just watch on my phone, and I'm like, I want to watch it on a bigger display. I want to see it on a 15-inch display and have it more, set up, and Tesla Theater's a thing and the games are a thing. And I just love that interior. I love minimalism and simplicity of interior. And also, ID4s are hard to find. There's not that many of them. And some places have dealer markups, but for the most part, I know people trying to get them that can't get them. So I'm not willing to compromise with an ID4 at this point. Tesla would have to do a lot to get me to go with the ID4. Basically, and I won't say it's impossible, but it's unlikely. Tesla would have to cancel my reservation and say, sorry, we're not going to build your car anymore, and not let us get anything else within the same ballpark. Like if they said, all you can do is buy a Model Y for 60 grand or buy a Model 3 for 58 grand, and they say that those are your options, I'd be like, okay, I don't know if I'm willing to splurge the extra 8 grand. I don't know. We'd have to have another discussion. I don't know what I would do in that scenario. Yeah, Tim says autopilot's a game changer for road trips. Funny how CarPlay equalizes a $20,000 and $100,000 user interface. CarPlay makes automakers lazy in developing innovative UI. I agree. I think a lot of them just don't try very hard because they're like, yeah, it'll do CarPlay, whatever. Let your phone handle it. And they don't. Yeah, that's a good point. 16-inch MacBook Pro coming in clutch for those reasons. An iPad 12.9-inch when the 16 won't fit in the dash of your car. Yeah, I just don't want to pack my laptop around everywhere in the car and stuff, but I'd rather just have the display that's already in there. That's even better. We're only going to sell the Model S Plaid Plus from now on. Exactly. If they did something like that, I would be like, okay, I guess I'm getting... I don't know, I'd have to re-examine the non-Tesla EV market, because I like the Ioniq 5, and I think the Kia EV6 is pretty cool as well. But I don't know. I haven't gotten to test drive an EV6. Maybe I would take that over the ID4. Let's see. My dog hates going in gas cars after I got my Tesla. He was a puppy when I got the Tesla. Oh, that's funny. He's like, oh, why is it making so much noise? That's funny. $150 for the family Suburban I'm using right now, only because $150 is the most I can spend at the pump where I go to fill up. Oof. That's a lot. I'm sorry to hear that, Mark. Ryan King super chatted. Thank you. He says, I finally bought Tesla stock today. Are you considering buying the dip? I'll be honest, I was thinking about it. I was like, man, Tesla stock's on sale right now. But here's the problem. Like, here's the dilemma I'm in. For one, all of our money, we're saving up as much as we can so that we can... Our goal is to be able to buy the Tesla and not sell any stock, right? Because hold on to your stock as long as you can. Especially don't sell it right now when it's low. But that's all just dependent on when the car is ready to take delivery and how the channels perform over the next few months, which with YouTube and the algorithm and CPMs all being fluctuating, it's very hard to plan. It's like, I could make this much, I could make this much. Depending on how the channels perform, we should be able to buy the Model 3 without selling stock. But if I suddenly just said, you know what, I'm going to take the entire Tesla fund, or at least a decent chunk of it, and throw it into Tesla stock, then I'm going to have to get either a loan on the car or sell the stock, which, of course, everyone says, don't sell the stock, don't sell the stock, when the car is ready to take delivery. And if my job had more predictable income and, like, I just knew what I was going to make every month, it would be very easy to get a loan. That would be a very easy decision. But my income is so all over the place. Some months are great, some months are bad. It's just fluctuating constantly, and YouTube is very hard to predict. There's just in general less watch time on the platform as a whole. I'm not saying just for my channel, but go around, look at, go on Social Blade, look up Unbox Therapy, look up Renee Ritchie, look up Snazzy Lab, like look up just people in the tech community. Everyone's seeing a big decline in viewership. There's very few exceptions out there, for the most part. So it's like YouTube's all competing with TikTok now, and with short form content on the rise, people are not really sure how to monetize that. It's very hard to monetize short form content versus long form content. So we don't know what the future has in store. With my job as a content creator, so it's very difficult for me to take out loans and get sign contracts that say, yeah, I'll pay you this much a month for the next 6 years or 5 years, because I don't know what my job's going to look like in 4 or 5 years. We don't know. So our goal is always not that we're like, okay, don't buy anything nice, but if you can, if you want to buy something nice, buy it outright so that you know you have the money, and then no matter what happens afterwards, you bought it. It's yours. I would absolutely hate to get into a situation where, okay, I got a loan on the car, and then a couple years down the road, YouTube crashes and burns, or gets bought out, or I don't know, changes monetization policy and makes it way, way harder for us to make money, or we all make substantially less money. That's all possible. That can all happen. With the way they're tinkering the algorithm right now, that's already happening. We're seeing all the watch time and stuff go down. But if it got to a point where it was like, oh, dang, my income's way lower, now I don't know if I can afford this car anymore. We might have to sell it to cover the loan, and I don't want to be in that situation. I want to buy it and know this is mine. I own it through and through. I don't hope to one day pay it off or hope to one day own it. So again, if I had like a union job or something that was really consistent and I knew exactly how much I was going to make each month for the rest of the loan term, I would be fine getting a loan, but I don't know. So that's why we don't get one. But at the same time, I'm also like, hey, I bet that stock is going to be a lot better in the future. But if you sell your stock after buying it within a 12-month period, you get short-term capital gains tax. So that takes away a lot of the gain. So I know that if I bought a bunch of Tesla stock right now, I would not want to sell for probably 8, 9 years, at least, maybe longer. So it's a tough decision, and if my livelihood and my income was more predictable, I'd probably do it, but it's not, and I don't know what the future has in store. So I'm just gonna keep saving cash for the car, and once we get the car, we'll get back into investing again, which will be hopefully still on sale. Stock market crashes are not necessarily bad things. It just means it's a good time to buy in. It just sucks that we're saving up for something else right now. um, Only EV I've been impressed with other than Tesla is Rivian. That's true. I love the Rivian, and I would love one, but it's just way too much, which is why it's not my answer for, like, if Tesla said I couldn't buy their product anymore, Rivian would not be my first choice because they're just way out of my price range, and I don't need a pickup truck. As much as I love the Rivian, I just couldn't afford it. But if price was not a factor and I had to buy a non-Tesla, it would be a Rivian for sure. I'd buy an R1T if it was like, okay, Tesla won't sell cars anymore, but you have a bunch of money to spend. Yeah, Rivian's awesome. Love the software, love the interior, exterior, practicality, functionality. Just so much character in that vehicle. It just has so much personality, and insanely fast and great at off-roading. Very capable. It's what I love about Rivian is they've kind of bunched all of these like first principles in their first vehicle. Like Tesla started with the Roadster, and like, okay, Rivian's starting with like a high priced truck, but it's also very capable. It's like got payload, it's got the gear tunnel, and it's fast. So it's like they're performance driven, a lot more performance than you'd expect a pickup truck to have, but it's also good at off-roading. It's also outdoorsy, but it's also got a big emphasis on software. Like, so many great ideas all in one product. My only issue with it is it's too expensive, so I can't buy one. But Rivian is not that far price wise from the Model Y. Rivian still has the tax credit. Not necessarily. I mean, I guess it's kind of close with the federal tax credit, but I was talking about the ones they're building right now. Once they start building the Explorer package, yes, you're right. They're very close to the Model Y, but they're not planning on building the Explorer package for another 2 years, I think. So basically, or not the Explorer package, the standard pack is the one that you're talking about that's close to the Model Y price. And right here on the website, it says standard battery pack delivery begins in 2024. So we've got a ways to go before the Rivian is at that advertised 67.5 grand. And again, we compromised with the Model 3 because we thought the Model Y was too expensive, and this is more than a Model Y is. Um, but yeah, if I was specking a Rivian, I would get like the cheapest possible option, and that's still, yeah, over 67 grand. There is a tax credit, but that brings it down to 60,000, which is still a lot. But it would be LFP, which I like. So I don't know if they'll actually make that model, but I would consider it if I was in the market for a pickup. That's the bigger problem. I like trucks, and I like talking about pickup trucks, and I like the way they look, and I like their functionality. But end of the day, I'm a YouTuber here. I'm making content on my laptop at home or on a trip, and I'm live streaming, and I don't move around wood. I don't, need mulch. I don't do gardening. I don't tow things. I don't go off-roading, and I don't really have a desire to. Maybe I would if I bought the Rivian, but that's kind of an expensive hobby to get into. I've never gone off-roading before, but I'd like to, so I'm going to spend 60 grand on a truck. Yeah, it's definitely not as efficient too. It would cost a lot more to insure and to charge. I don't have a VIN for my Model 3, so I can't get insurance quotes for it yet, to answer your question earlier. But I do have a NEMA 1450 adapter and a 1450 plug. So yeah, I'll be charging from home. That's the plan. Uh, do you really believe Tesla will start Cybertruck production as early as next year? I don't think it's impossible, but it's looking less and less likely because all of the reasons they've delayed the Cybertruck are still, all of those problems as to why they're not building the truck are still relevant now. The main reason is they would deliver less vehicles if they started building the Cybertruck, and Tesla has not caught up on Model Y demand. Do I think Tesla will catch up on Model Y demand by next year? I hope so, but I can't say guaranteed. There could still be a year-long backlog by next year, so I don't know. If they started building Cybertrucks, that would take a lot of batteries away from Model Y production, and it would definitely need more batteries. So I would not be surprised if they delayed it again. It's very up in the air right now. If it does come out next year, I think it'll be near the end. It'll be like December, first deliveries. What about the R1S, the Rivian SUV? Well, as cool as it is, it doesn't fix my main problem with the Rivian, which is the pricing. It's a fantastic vehicle. It's just out of my price range. R1S is more expensive than the R1T. Excuse me. So, very cool. Love the design, love the interior, love the exterior, love the performance and all that, but just not in my price bracket. I couldn't swing it, and I don't really think I could justify it. It's just me and my wife. There's two of us living. Very rarely have anybody in the backseat of our car. So, do I need a 7-seater SUV that's going to consume like twice as much power as the Model 3 per mile? I don't think so. That would just cost a lot more, not just up front, but also on a monthly basis from then on out. It would cost more money per mile driven. That's why I asked, they still struggling with supply chain shortages for Model Y? Yeah, I do think that in the event Cybertruck deliveries start next year, it'll be very, very end. It'll be Q4, December 31st. It's not going to be first half of 2023 at this point. They're already booked out. They're already taking orders for Model Ys for 2023 right now. So it's like, clearly that's not going to be fixed. Tesla never said they wanted to catch up with demand. They said they wanted to ramp up Model Y production. I don't know what the difference is with that. I mean, they said, basically his words was, if we delivered new models this year, we would deliver less cars overall. That was his reason when he said, Cybertruck update on the next earnings call. Join the earnings call for Cybertruck update. We all joined in, and he says, we would deliver less vehicles if we introduced new models right now. That's going to be the case for a while. He could still use that same argument in 2023. So that's why I'm not entirely convinced. It's very easy in May or in April to say we'll deliver this next year, because that gives you like 18 months to figure it out. But if it's next year and it's like, okay, can we build and deliver this thing in the next 6 months? That's a very different question. How many Cybertrucks will they be able to make in the first full year of production? So it will require a lot of batteries. I think the 300-mile range Cybertruck will probably use like a 120 kilowatt hour pack, which is, based on what I've heard, I think around twice as many batteries as the standard range Model Y. So I don't think they'll just go straight to 250,000 a year. I'm guessing more like 50. Like in the first year, they'll build like 50,000 trucks. Obviously, very little at the start, and then they slowly ramp up. Um, and then in the next year, maybe they build 100, 120,000, and then the next year after that, maybe they get to 200 or 250 or something. But it's going to be slow. They're not going to be able to ramp the Cybertruck as quickly as the Model Y just because of how many batteries it is, and it's a much larger vehicle. So I don't think we should look at the production ramps of Shanghai and say, well, that's how quickly Cybertruck will ramp, because Model 3s and Model Ys were ramping with like 60, 70 kilowatt hour battery packs. Tesla's never ramped a vehicle that required a 120 kilowatt hour pack. Um, but I do still think they'll ramp faster than Rivian or Ford, because Tesla's very good at production ramping, especially with EVs. And when you need that many cells per vehicle, it's not going to be quick. Oh, Steven says, can I still buy you lunch sometime? We got to do that. I don't know when we're going to be able to, just because my life is so busy right now. But Musyong Park says, any advice for someone on the fence between Model 3 and Y? I guess I would just say put the price difference between them as the differences between them. So like, what are the differences between the Model 3 and Y? Okay, the ride height, the storage space, the hatchback, the HEPA filter, I guess, and then look at the price difference. Model 3, which I think the LFP is a very good value and not that big a range difference from the long range, despite it sounding like a big range difference. It's like, okay, if that's 47 grand and the Model Y is 63 grand, so there's 16, no. Is it really that much? Yeah, like there's like $16,000 between, or let's just say it's $15,000 between those two options. Is the extra range, the extra storage space, and the hatch and the HEPA filter, is that worth 16 grand to you? If you don't think you're going to utilize the extra storage space or the higher ride height or the HEPA filter that much, if you don't think those are very valuable, then go with a 3. Save yourself some money, because these things are dang expensive. Not to mention, not only is the Model 3 cheaper, you will probably get it sooner. The Model 3 is not as back-ordered as the Model Y is. So, Steven says, I just got hired to work the Model Y line at Fremont. What? Really? Oh my God, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's wonderful. You're helping Tesla, right? Literally. Like, that's probably the only thing you could do better for them than buy their car, is actually help them build the car. That's awesome. Giovanni says, I expect Cybertruck to start really soon, like before 2069. Very soon. Elon is suspecting Texas and Berlin will be ramped by end of this year. 4680 production should be ramped by end of this year, hopefully. I know, I've heard it before. I've heard his timelines before, but I'm not sure if fully ramping the Giga Texas will instantly mean they're caught up with demand. Excuse me. I'm waiting on the Equinox before considering an EV. Okay, we've got way too many EV orders as it is, Taker 610, so take your time. You keep paying for gas as much as you want so that the rest of us can get our EV sooner. I got no problem with that. Thank you for the super chat. Oh, Steven says, I start the 23rd, decrease in pay, but dope job in place. Wow, that's really honorable. You're taking a pay decrease, but I hope you like it there. Yeah, we'd have to talk about that sometime. I think that'll be fun. All right, I've been live for a while, and I've got, unfortunately, a lot of stuff in my personal life going on right now that I have to, not bad stuff, just like things I've agreed to that I have to get going on. But I appreciate the super chats, and I appreciate all your guys' great questions. I love talking like this and interacting with you guys directly. Oh, Tim says, consider that the Model 3 is nimble in tight garage spaces, so consider your driving environment. That's a good point. It's probably easier to park a Model 3. But I seriously appreciate you guys all watching. It helps out a ton, and this is like my dream job that I love doing. So as long as you guys are willing to watch, then I'm going to keep doing it. And I'll chat with you all very, very soon. Take care. Have a good day. Bye bye.